Saturn and longevity. So this can apply to anything longevity based. So if this is like your lifespan. Now, does this mean that if if you've got lots of really good aspects to Pluto and you completely trash your life and you trash your body and you don't take care of yourself, that you're going to, live a long, healthy life without diseases? No. It won't, it's not some sort of miracle, override. I mean, it could still bring you longer life, but maybe you're sick. That's possible. But everything's possible. It just gives you indicators of what you're working with. And I think the reason it does this, it's not some weird woo-woo miracle cure or something like that. It's more about the influence that Saturn brings. So Saturn makes us at a young age. Again, wherever you have the influence, the more influence you have of this planet on different planets and asteroids, the more likely you are to view those areas of your life with the lens of reality. Now, I know reality can be different to different people, but Saturn is very stringent. It's very much about, is this a good idea? Is this mature? Is this wise? Is this something that's worth my time? So from that standpoint, it kind of creates a better framework at which to build something, right? So when it's about like relationships, for instance, when you meet someone, maybe you have all those chemicals going in your brain and you're really excited. And, again, I'm giving you one example. There can be people you meet and go on a date where you feel absolutely nothing. So again, but you're not going to consider that relationship, are you? Because you don't feel anything. But if you are excited, those chemicals can mess with your view. They can mess with what's good for you and what isn't. And so what I'm saying is it's worthwhile considering Saturn's influence. And the reason is it helps you weigh up. Is this a good idea? Is this the kind of person I want to spend 20, 30, 40, whatever amount of years with? Because again, Saturn's about longevity. It's about the length of something. Is this worth my time? Right? And if the answer is no, Saturn's like, well, then it's probably not a good idea. And that's what helps snap you out of all those chemicals. Now, it can be difficult if you're really attracted to a person. And if that's the case, that's other areas, right? This is things like, is this like a short-term lesson, right? In order, like that desire carries you through this lesson, this painful whatever, or the excitement of the experience or whatever. The excitement, the desire is what pulls you through something that you're meant to learn about. But Saturn comes in to kind of go, okay, yes, you're excited. I can see that. But you've been excited before. Is this worth that whole thing? Is this similar to what you've been through before? And is it going to end up like it did before? Now, that can seem like fear-mongering. I can understand that. But it's really not. It's really about teaching you not to waste your time with things that are not worth your time. That's really what Saturn's about. So if you're out partying and whatever, and I'm not saying that this like forgives all things, but I'm just giving examples of how you can use it. If you sort of consider what aspects you have to Saturn and what areas, because again, you're going to have Saturn in one house. Okay, so the actual planet itself is going to be in one house. It won't be in any others. But what it does is it extends its tentacles, so to speak, or energy, whatever you want to call it, to other planets and asteroids when they're in a certain position. And that influence then creates an extension to that area, so that house that it also extends to. And again, the energy between those two planets and asteroids, the houses that are linked, there's lots and lots of different things that will happen here by this influence. And so in those areas, you can then consult that understanding. So again, if it's more of a positive, right, or a soft aspect, again, it depends on who you talk to. I personally think conjunctions are, sometimes enough of one thing isn't good, but I think overall it helps you understand it a little bit better because the planet and asteroid are in the same sign. They will show up differently because they're two different planets and asteroids, but still. The opposition can be challenging, but again, there's lessons to be learned from the opposite sign. The square can be very difficult because, again, we're talking about elements that are not compatible, right? But you can learn things. So it all depends on how you look at it. You can learn things from this person or from yourself based on a square because it creates an interesting tension. And tension makes things interesting. They're not as boring. And when you have things easy all the time, it becomes boring, doesn't it? We're like, oh, well, I got to shake things up. I've got to find some sort of problem to keep this interesting. And again, it depends on what placements you have as to what trouble you like to stir up. Then, of course, there's the trine. Did I talk about the trine? The trine is when it's 4 signs away. So it's in the same element. So this is even better than a conjunction, obviously, because it's a compatible element, but not exactly the same sign. So sometimes that can be a nice configuration also. So what this does is it like extends a lifeline, so to speak, and it helps you recognize what really isn't worth your time. Because at the end of the day, if it wasn't for Saturn and we got carried away with whatever fantasy or, whatever whimsical, crazy, delusional, whatever we get carried off with, I mean, imagine the chaos our lives would be. We would be getting ourselves into all kinds of mess. And look, there are people who don't have as much Saturn influence, right? Even, in life, in modern day and in the past. But when you meet people like that, they're chaotic. They're kind of here, there, and everywhere. It's kind of crazy. And then people who have more of an influence of Saturn, it creates its own, well, I guess, awareness, reality kick, you know what I mean? It gives you a kick up the backside and be like, look, you're being kind of ridiculous right now. You're getting carried away with the fantasy and you're not seeing the reality of the situation. So I'm going to chuck a whole bunch of lessons and obstacles in the way. So hopefully, you cease and desist and you learn and you go back or, go forward, depending on what we're talking about. But that you've learned a lesson here is the main thing. So Saturn's important in that regard. It's also that sobering reality when it comes to like good choices in terms of longevity and health. It's this idea of, okay, I understand you want to go out drinking all night. I understand you want to go out with your friends and, take drugs or whatever. But is it the best idea? I mean, you are working tomorrow or, you're up for that promotion or whatever the situation might be. You've got this really important thing you got to do in the next couple of weeks. Should you really get rip-roaring drunk before that? Saturn will kind of be like, no, probably shouldn't. So again, it's that sobering, mind the pun, but it's that sobering reality kick of like, should you though? I know you want to, but is it the best idea? So it's that kind of voice of reason that keeps us from falling off the deep end, jumping off the train, whatever train of thought you want to talk about. But yeah, Saturn's important. Anytime it comes to reality, making good decisions, choosing good relationships that are worthwhile, you definitely need to consider Saturn, for sure. Now, again, you could have Saturn or Capricorn or Aquarius in relationship areas when we're talking about relationship. And this will show the desire to engage with people who you see something worthwhile long term and to stick with that relationship for that reason. Also, in terms of Aquarius, again, there's a little bit of a slight detour with this one because of the Uranus influence. Is this person, not only are they worthwhile long term, but is this person interesting, different, and unique enough? And that's not exactly Saturn, but because Aquarius blends both of these themes, it's still going to be important to consider. So obviously keep that in mind. So again, anytime we're talking about introspection, wisdom, making good decisions, and this is with anything, relationships, life, career, anything, you have to consider Saturn. Like I said, it's not warm and squishy. It's not really about, oh, let's go do this, it'll be great fun. It's not about that. It's about keeping you from making stupid decisions. And if it wasn't for Saturn, we would all be up, you know what creek without a paddle. Like, we'd all be in big trouble. And having seen that there are definitely people in the world who don't have a lot of this influence, they're making dumb decisions all the time. Again, it doesn't sort of bypass like health and disease choices. It can help you in those areas if you consult it, because you can kind of go, okay, you know, is this a good idea for my health? Is it not? But if you don't actually know what constitutes health, and a lot of people don't, people think they do, but they don't. In terms of research, especially modern day research, a lot of the things people think are healthy are not. So it sort of helps you go deeper into that, or at least the desire to figure out what is it that actually extends healthy life. Not living a long time but being sick. That's not going to be a good way to use Saturn. But what leads to long life in a healthy way that's free of disease? That's the question to ask. And again, that can help you in terms of the long, hard, diligent, consistent work that Saturn brings, that ability to focus. You know, you need that when it comes to taking on new information and researching. Obviously, there's other signs and other planets that have to do with that. You know, Mercury comes to mind, Virgo in particular. But Gemini, anything that's very research based is going to help out. And again, Saturn is one of those. Anything that's worth taking time. I mean, it's that, what is it from The Hobbit? Treebeard. Now, again, if you're not nerdy, it might not make any sense. But one of the things he says when they get together, all the tree herders, in their language, which of course is Old Entish, it's this whole thing of we don't say anything unless it takes a long time to say. So they go about things in a much slower pace, taking their time, working through all the parameters. This is very Saturn. This is like old man willow, treebeard. This is like things that last. Oak trees, ancient trees that have been around since the beginning of time and are protected. Anything that's about long life and longevity in general, wisdom, you know, slowing down, making smart choices, etc. That's all Saturn. So definitely worth consulting when it comes to the longevity idea of things. Like, how long do you want something to last? Because if you want it to last a long time and to be in good condition, you definitely need to see where Saturn is in your chart and where the influences are in terms of your chart.